I'm Maggie.
Hi, I'm Mark, and this is
Spatial Report.
Welcome to the Esri Canada podcast that connects our user community with the latest and coolest trends in the world of ArcGIS. On today's show,
we've got our stockings full of gifts for our year-end What's New Spectacular starring our GeoGeeks.
That's right, Alison, Justin, Sue, and Brandon are here to celebrate the holidays by sharing 3 new features and enhancements in ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Enterprise, our mobile apps, and ArcGIS Online.
Ho, 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 merry mapping. Let's get started.
Maggie, Samson, it is now December. Happy holidays!
Thank you, and happy holidays to you too, Mark. I love the holiday season.
Yeah, it's fine. I don't have a tree or anything, but I'll try to celebrate somehow.
Yeah, I get some jingle bells up in your place, cheer it up a little bit.
Put some tinsel, all that kind of fun stuff. I'll work on it. But it is such a festive season that I think we need to celebrate by unloading all of the great new features that we have in ArcGIS. So we have invited all 4 of our GeoGeeks to join us in this supersized edition of the GeoGeeks segment, where they're going to share 3 things about their products and what's new with them.
Absolutely. We've got a lot to cover, so let's just get right into it.
It's now time for the GeoGeeks, our regular segment where we bring in a subject matter expert to tell us what's noteworthy in our core ArcGIS products. But today, we're bringing them all together, all 4 of our peeps, to tell us about 3 things you should know about our latest releases.
To kick things off, gliding in from the Rideau Canal Skateway with a cocoa and a beaver tail is our skating superstar, Alison O'Brien. Welcome, Alison, back to the podcast.
Hey guys, how's it going?
It's great. Exciting to have our wrap up and have you back on to share what's new in ArcGIS Pro 3.4 in the latest release from November with us today.
I'm excited to share some of these updates for you guys.
So you gave us a little sneak peek of what we're looking at. Let's start off with the first thing that I know you're excited to talk about, which is being able to set time periods for offline licenses. Can you tell us more about what that is and that addition to the software?
Yes. So the first thing I wanted to bring up to you guys was that there's now an option to set the time period to take ArcGIS Pro named user licenses offline so that you can work in a disconnected environment. So by default, this is enabled in ArcGIS Online. However, as the organization administrator, you can manage whether the licenses can be taken offline and for how long. So these settings are made for the organization like as a whole, not individual members. And then there are 3 options when you're modifying if users can take licenses offline. So first we have members can take ArcGIS Pro offline for the max allowed duration. So that means that they can take ArcGIS Pro offline until your license expires or the ArcGIS Online subscription end date, whatever one of that comes first. And then second, there's members can take ArcGIS Pro offline for a set period. So this is the new thing. So basically the administrator can set the amount of days allowed to take the license offline. And then on the end user side, you're able to check out the license for any number of days up to the limit set by the administrator. And then lastly, we just have members cannot take ArcGIS Pro offline.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really helpful to be more flexible with licensing, especially when it comes to offline situations like you mentioned. So I really love that new feature. I also know that in ArcGIS Pro, they've done a lot of work trying to evolve charts and continue to improve the charting capabilities in Pro. So they have introduced a brand new chart type. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Yes. So they came up with, it's called Create Combo Charts. So this chart combines bar and line series in one single chart. So it allows you to choose the appropriate series type for your data and compares series of different types. So they support dual y-axes, which are quite useful when exploring relationships between series of different scales. So this means that you can display a y-axis on the left side and the right side of your chart. And so like you would use a secondary y-axis when, let's say, like the magnitude of the value is less important than how the trends are related between the series. So an example of how you can use the combo charts would be like you can compare the total daily precipitation with the average minimum or maximum daily temperatures during a specific month. So you can basically, like an example would be comparing the precipitation with the temperatures that day.
That's great to hear. I love whenever they add new chart things in ArcGIS Pro. Spatial stats is my favorite. So I think that's a pretty exciting add on and a good example because I was having a little hard time visualizing that. Makes sense though. And then I know the last thing that you were interested in talking about, I have no idea what this word means, but I know there was lots of talk about hyperspectral imagery. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so ArcGIS Pro 3.4 now supports hyperspectral images. So these are stored in standard raster formats like TIFF or ENVI, just to name a couple.
Mhm.
So these hyperspectral imagery, so they comprise of hundreds of contiguous bands across the electromagnetic spectrum. So you can easily now add these images into your map by clicking on the Add Data button, and then you'll see the option to add these images right into your map.
Wow, I had no idea what that meant, but I'm sure that's going to be very useful for
Yeah.
our users. So I'm really glad you highlighted hyperspectral imagery and the other things that you mentioned. But of course, we're just tipping the iceberg, right? So there's a whole bunch of new changes that's available in ArcGIS Pro 3.4, and you can find all of those listed in our doc. So you can definitely check that out. And Alison, we got something coming up in January too, right?
Yes, yes, we have our webinar that's going to talk about a lot of the new features in ArcGIS Pro 3.4.
Absolutely. So stay tuned for that at the end of January. And there's also a number of different geosnaps that we have out there as well to show you some of these new functions as well. So lots of resources out there, and I hope you give ArcGIS Pro 3.4 a try. Allison, amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today on the pod.
Thanks for having me, you guys. Always nice chatting with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy holidays to you. That's Alison O'Brien. She's a technical solutions specialist with the marketing team, our newest member to the marketing team. So,
Woo!
congratulations, Alison, for that. And she is calling in from her brand new igloo in Ottawa.
Next up, let's keep the jingle bells rocking with our ArcGIS Enterprise GeoGeek.
From navigating everyday obstacles to tackling the most pressing issues facing our world today, tune in to Geographical Thinking to discover how geospatial solutions can help solve problems and drive positive change. My name is Michelle Brake, and I'll be your guide as we explore stories, ideas, and conversations through the lens of geography. Listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform.
We are back, and joining us around a virtual fireplace is our holly jolly soul himself, Mr. Bonhomme, Justin Broussard. Bonjour, mon ami.
Holly jolly, love to hear it. Christmas time's coming up. I'm happy to be on the pod to wrap up the year. Nonetheless, ArcGIS Enterprise, a lot of changes have happened, so ready to dive into that.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to cover three of the things that you want to point out with the newest release of ArcGIS Enterprise 11.4, which was released in November.
Mhm.
And the first thing you wanted to mention is something that was already incorporated on the ArcGIS Online world, but is now part of the Enterprise world, and that is ArcGIS user type. So tell us a little bit more about what's going on that end in Enterprise.
Yeah, of course. So as we know, Enterprise is always a little bit behind ArcGIS Online, which is completely okay. It takes a bit of time to integrate that technology into ArcGIS Enterprise, right? But the biggest thing, user types, right? So we do know with the June update that occurred this year, there were major changes that occurred with the user types, specifically in ArcGIS Online. Well, now we can expect those to occur in the newest update for ArcGIS Enterprise. So what does this mean? Let's just kind of go through a quick recap of kind of what changed here. So previously we had the viewer, the editor, mobile worker, creator, and then we had our GIS professional licenses at the level of basic, standard, and advanced. So all these, depending where you were, you might need some add-on extensions kind of added on to some user types. Essentially now this is meant to kind of simplify things for us, right? A couple user type names have changed, which is great, right? And the model's a lot easier to understand now. So moving over to the new model now, The editor user type, which is our second one with the least privileges, we could say, has changed to contributor. Has functionality really changed in here? Not really. You're going to have majority of the same functionality as the editor did. So that's not really a big deal. Don't worry about that. But as we move up the chain, as we get to the creators, when our major changes start to occur here. So we've got the creator, professional, and professional plus, which are now the new 3 user types essentially. Why is the creator new, you may ask? Well, previously in the GIS professional basic, standard, and advanced, each one of those basically held like a separate, we can call it a separate type of GIS Pro license, we can say, right? So in the basic, we had an ArcGIS Pro license, a basic license, and then we had a standard license and the advanced license. Well, now that ArcGIS Pro basic license is included in our creator user type, which is great, right? So you can now create basically an ArcGIS Online and also use that basic license of ArcGIS Pro without needing that add-on license for ArcGIS Pro, simply in that creator user type. And then as we go up to professional plus now, the professional is going to have our ArcGIS standard license, and then the ArcGIS Pro advanced license is going to be in our professional plus. Another thing worth noting actually for the professional plus, there is some add-on extensions from ArcGIS Pro that are included in here. So that's also great. You don't have to come in now and assign or use all those add-on extensions in the highest level of user type, right? Majority of the more major ones like spatial analysts, et cetera, will be included in there already. So you don't have to worry about those anymore. But generally speaking, it's integrated in ArcGIS Enterprise now, kind of integrated in the same way as ArcGIS Online, but it's definitely a great change that's kind of occurred, and it's helping us kind of simplify things a little bit.
Absolutely. I know that it's been a long time coming for Enterprise. It's been out for a while in ArcGIS Online, so there's lots of resources if people are interested in reading more. But I think you did a great job summarizing it. So thanks for reminding us all about user types. It's been a big topic this year.
Of course.
Another area that I know you're saying, Enterprise is usually a little bit behind online, but in this case, I actually think it's a little ahead of ArcGIS Online. You're going to talk to us a little bit about the web editor, right?
Yeah, of course. So the ArcGIS web editor, that recently also got put into ArcGIS Online, right? And what does that tool do? Essentially, it basically makes those data editing workflows a lot easier, right? It streamlines your data maintenance workflows, right? And this is something that's absolutely amazing, right? You can come in and it gives you an interface. It's basically another application, gives you an interface to go in and edit your data, whether it's creating new features, updating features, deleting features, changing vertices, for example. You can do stuff like split, merge, and move or reshape features, etc. Right? But a feature that ArcGIS Enterprise does have in this application that is not in ArcGIS Online that is great is going to be that you're able to manage versions for versioned data sets, right? That's just a feature that got added in. It's going to add a lot of functionality to that application, especially when you're using those things like enterprise geodatabases, right? It's going to add functionality to that actual application, and it's a great addition. So it's a little bit ahead in that sense as of right now. Will it come to ArcGIS Online down the line? Who knows, right? But it's important that we stay in touch to kind of find out what's going to happen with that in the future.
Amazing, yes. And I know we spent some time talking about the web editor in our last podcast for ArcGIS Online. So if you're curious about the basics, you can definitely tune into the feed there. But I'm glad you expanded on some of the extra features that are available now in Enterprise. So we appreciate you sharing that. All right, just third thing. I honestly have no idea what it is. You have new item classification functionality. So talk to me about what that is.
Yeah, so item classification. So this is a great feature, I think. The way I think of this really, I'm sure as we all know with the newer versions of the Microsoft products, so stuff like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, you maybe get some form of like notification now or like when you try and save a document, for example, you might get like this little box that pops up and it basically tells you to select the privacy of the item essentially, right? Whether it's internal, public, confidential, etc., right? Well, basically, the way I'm thinking of it, this is almost a same method to be implemented on your data in the ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise platform, right? So when you have data now, if there's something, I know there's companies out there, whether you're a municipality, you're in the defense sector, banking, whatever it may be, right? Anytime that you're using ArcGIS Enterprise now and you have that deployment, you can go ahead and set the classification on those items. So what does that mean? We can set an item as confidential when we want. And here's a tidbit though. No, it's not going to be instantly hidden from the public, okay, or from your organization. You do still have to set these settings as the administrator kind of in the back end to those specific labels. But essentially, that functionality is going to allow us to set those labels so that privileges could be set on them essentially. So that if there is confidential stuff, for example, or maybe you want somebody to see specific items and only specific items within your organization, you can set that up so that that is a thing just based off that label code. Another great feature, something that's going to be very useful. At first, I wasn't necessarily sure about it on my end in software like PowerPoint and Excel, for example, right? But I could definitely see the use behind it, especially when you've got that really confidential data that you don't want getting spread around. So another great feature that got added in.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really good to see that this release had a lot of stuff for the administrator, the
Definitely.
simplified identity process and making sure that you have your data secure and organized. It's a big step forward for ArcGIS Enterprise. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Yeah, no problem. Glad I could share some of the new information and keep everybody up to date on what's going on.
Thank you. And I'm sure we'll have you back again for more coming next year.
Can't wait.
That's Justin Broussard. He's a technical solutions specialist with the marketing team, and he's joining us from his gingerbread house in Bolton, Ontario.
Let's enjoy a cup of eggnog during this short break, and then when we come back, we'll talk about what's new in our mobile apps.
The GeoGeek parade continues. Returning from her canoeing and camping trip up in the North Pole, here's our Field Apps GeoGeek, Sue Kringle. I mean, Sue and Yeti, here
Hello.
to talk about all of our apps. Hi, Sue. Welcome.
Thanks for having me again.
It's great to have you back here to fill us in on what's been going on with the big November releases. I know all of the apps saw some sort of update in that time. So maybe you can get us started off with, I know one that you use a lot, the field maps.
Sure, Maggie and Mark. So we've had actually 3 releases for field maps in 2024 in February, August, and November, and 2 for ArcGIS Enterprise. And there have been a lot of form enhancements lately, but I wanted to talk about some of the notable updates in working with the map, which is the star of your field maps data collection project. So now in your ArcGIS organization, you can directly open the map viewer from Field Maps Designer. So it's easier to make changes to your map while working with the form and going back and forth, which I find I do a lot. For working offline, we've also provided a few new options. The Field Maps Designer app allows you to enable offline. So if your mobile users go into situations with no connectivity, they have an option to then go offline. Usually working both with the online and offline map are available options, but with the latest release, you can disable offline to prevent mobile workers from adding offline areas, so they only work with online maps, which are constantly up to date. And you can also enforce that mobile users only work with offline versions of the map. And this is a useful feature that a lot of our users have actually asked for because they want to have some control in how their field crew work with the map. We also have a couple of their options. So Field Maps, because it combined our old Explorer and Collector app, it allows you to add markup, and you can add markup whether you're editing or just using Field Maps in a read-only format. But again, some of our users didn't want to have markup, so we can now disable that as well. And finally, we've provided in the November release some industry-specific templates to get you started from Field Maps from scratch very quickly. And templates have been available with our other data collection apps, Survey 123 and Quick Capture. So Field Maps, we're catching up to that. We're initially offering 3 industry-specific templates with more to come. These map templates include predefined layers with forms, with some logic and calculated expressions. And the map has some pop-ups and symbology already defined. Once you create the map with this template, you can easily customize the map, layers, and forms to fit your needs. And that's just a few of the new map capabilities with Field Maps this year.
I love that, and I'm really glad that a lot of our user input has been integrated into these improvements. So I think that's really great that our developers are listening to our users. That's fantastic news. All right, so the second app, I know this is one of Maggie's favorites, is ArcGIS Survey 123. So tell us about what's new, especially in regards to grids.
Yeah, Survey 123 is very popular. It's not just your favorite, Maggie. And we've had 3 releases in June, September, and November. So grids, just to talk a little about what grids are, is they allow you to have a better format for your questions in the survey. And Survey 123 has always provided two options for collecting with the survey: the mobile app that the users download from the app stores on iOS, Android, and Windows, and also the web app, which you don't need to download and works in a browser, whether you're on a tablet, desktop, or a mobile device. So previously, the grids were only supported on the app. And you use this grid layout so you can arrange your questions in the survey side by side. Usually the questions in a survey form are arranged to take up the full width of the screen. Using a grid, it's a lot more useful because you can now make the most of your layout, especially if you're using it on a tablet, laptop, or desktop monitor. You can maximize how many questions you put in within the form, and it reduces the need for your survey users to have to scroll up and down all the time in the form, and you can better mimic that paper form in a digital survey. What's kind of interesting is you can use grids with pages, and you can also use URL parameters to adjust the width of the grid in the form, or so the browser you can maximize that space and use the most ideal for your survey. And I know, again, this is one of those features a lot of our users have wanted, that grid layout support in the web form. You still use the Survey 123 Connect app to author them.
That's great. I know that, like you said, it's been waited for a while, so it's good to hear that that's an option now. I'm really excited to see that in Survey 123. Yes, my favorite one. It's the best, but it's not the only one. There are a lot. They're all great, and Quick Capture certainly has a lot of value as well. So, what's going on with Quick Capture this year?
Yeah, so Quick Capture, we had a release in March and one in September. I think what an interesting capability that we recently added is how you work with those project variables. So Quick Capture is designed to enable very rapid data capture at the tap of a button. So typically most of your attributes, they are configured for automatic capture with each tap of a button, but you can add up to 10 user input variables, allowing your users to provide additional information. So, for example, they might want to type in some additional text or comments. This year, we allow you to configure those project user input variables using a dynamic list. And this is done by associating the input variable list with an existing feature layer or table, and it will automatically populate from field choices you specify. So, as a mobile user, they will just select from this list, and the list is always updated because it's associated with a layer or table in your ArcGIS organization. I think it's a really great enhancement for providing some additional capabilities with the Quick Capture project. And it's something you could do with Survey 123. And now you can do it with Quick Capture, and you just configure it with a web designer to add to your form. So it's really useful.
Useful indeed. Sue and Yeti, that's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing all of these new features in field maps in Survey 123 and in Quick Capture. We really appreciate it, and have a great holidays. Have a cup of wine for me.
Thank you. And there'll be lots more to come in 2025 for the mobile apps. Thank you.
I'm sure there are. Thank you very much. That's Sue and Yeti. She's the product specialist for mobile solutions with the project management team, and she's currently hanging out on Candy Cane Lane in Hamilton.
Last but not least, our jolly ArcGIS Online GeoGeek will join us from his sleigh next.
Finally, our GIS Grinch is here, because not only has he stolen Christmas, but he's also stolen our hearts. Mr. Brendan Wheatley. Brandon, how are you?
Mark, I'm doing great, thanks. How are you?
You know, doing fantastic. The holiday season is here, and all these new features in ArcGIS Online are here as well from the November release. And I know there's so many of them, we had to narrow them down to 3. So why don't we begin with the map viewer? So the map viewer always continues to evolve and always continues to improve. So what new features of the map viewer you want to highlight today?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Mark. Lots to choose from this update. So I've out of the gate, we're looking at the new embed maps capability with Map Viewer. So a great new simplified way to share any of your maps. And the best part, you don't need to create any separate applications. So right there inside Map Viewer, in the dark contents pane on that left-hand side, you'll now see the option to embed a map. Right in between Share Map and Create App, this option gives you a couple of parameters to customize the look and feel, right? If maybe you want a light mode or a dark mode, and configure some map actions like turning a legend on or enabling bookmarks. And then it's going to auto-generate an HTML link, which you can then freely share with anyone else, or of course, embed inside any applications. So super quick way through a couple of clicks to get your map out there and shareable, and you're off to the races. Definitely one of my favorite parts with the updates so far. But on a functionality side of things, if you're getting into the weeds in data or in ArcGIS Map Viewer and you want to do some attribute work, lots of improved functionality to our tables. So super excited to see this. Right out of the gate, you now can calculate fields using SQL as well as Arcade. So Arcade's already been there. You can now use SQL expressions. You can apply filters to that data before running the expression if you only want to rub that on a subset. Your calculation values can also be previewed before time. So you want to check to see what that result is before you run it. And any of the scripts or things that you do end up creating can be downloaded and saved for any future use. But lots more. You can make changes to field visibility, field order, and data sorting right in the attribute table inside Map Viewer. And not only can you make any of those configuration changes, you can save them to that specific web map or just that hosted layer item as well. So you can actually make those configuration changes, and it's not just a visual representation as you're in that web map. It'll actually stick around. So really a nice little flexible way. I know that's a big one. So I'm really hoping to see people happy and excited about that. If attachments are a little more your attribute game, you like a lot of different attachments. Ready for this? You can add, view, delete, change, download. And you can add them by dragging and dropping as well. I'm talking JPEGs, PDFs, any attachments you like. Lots of flexibility there now. But still arguably my favorite one, my favorite table update with this is going to be the new multi-tab view. Mm-hmm. So if you're an ArcGIS Pro user, perhaps you may recognize this one and be as excited about it as I am. You can now have multiple tables open in Map Viewer. So multiple attribute tables, multiple charts, maybe even multiple models. So lots more flexibility over the interface there inside Map Viewer. Those were three big standouts for me. How did that all sound?
Sounds great to me. And I think you kind of hinted at another big thing that's in the Map Viewer there when you talked about multiple models. What exactly are you talking about? What is that feature?
I did say models, and I meant it. I'm happy to announce that Model Builder Beta has officially come to ArcGIS Online. So those ArcGIS Pro users who have been leveraging and using Model Builder for years, I'm sure you'll also be excited about this. So Model Builder is available from the Analysis tab inside Map Viewer. So where you go and find all those great tools already, Model Builder is now going to be an option in there. So a little bit different to the way that it's set up from the ArcGIS web editor, right, which got its own standalone application in like the Chiclets menu where you can see all of your ArcGIS Online apps. You won't notice Model Builder in there. It's baked right into the ArcGIS Map Viewer. And an important thing to note right now, because this is out and being released in beta, your ArcGIS Online organization will need to have beta capabilities enabled in order to leverage Model Builder. So if you don't have that turned on, I suggest you get into your admin settings and go ahead and configure that so you can test out Model Builder today. Looks like out of the gate, there's going to be over 20 different analysis tools that you can take advantage of, all nicely color-coded as well. You can tell the difference between whether it's a tool, what's your data, what's an output. And in terms of inputs, you can, of course, put any of your own ArcGIS Online data into any of your models, any data that may be shared with you, shared across your organization, and you can even leverage data from the Living Atlas inside any tool inputs as well. And if we're going to talk about inputs, got to talk about what our outputs are. So nice part as well about Model Builder outputs is you have the option as to whether you want those layers to just generate a temporary intermediate layer. For example, you have a buffer in the middle of your Model Builder workflow. Do you want to keep that buffer as a hosted feature later? You certainly can. Or you can just have that be a temporary layer that gets discarded once your model's done running. If you don't need that buffer, just another way to help kind of reduce any clutter, cut down on any hosted layers that you may not want to be kept around, and of course, increase the performance of your model while we're at it. So lots of great things coming to Model Builder, even in this beta release. And of course, as well, that great history pane that was added quite a few updates ago, all of your model processes are going to be reflected and shared in there as well. So all those buffers, anything that your model produces, you're going to get a record of that in the history pane. So super excited to see that, and can't wait to see some use cases that come out of the new Model Builder.
Yeah, it's amazing that model builder, you can do all this stuff online. It really is another step in the evolution of ArcGIS Online, which is really incredible. So thanks for letting us know about that. Sort of tangential to ArcGIS Online is ArcGIS Experience Builder, and I know a lot of our users are transitioning from their web app builder applications to Experience Builder, and now we have a new tool to sort of help out with that. So talk a bit about Express Mode.
That's a perfect segue. That's exactly how I would have introduced it, Mark. It's a great transition for anyone that's looking or been working with ArcGIS Web App Builder, looking to start that transition or continue the transition, which a reminder is retiring in 2026. This is a great simplified workflow to bring to Experience Builder. You start by choosing a template, just like you did with Web App Builder. And it even includes a few of the Web App Builder templates. So familiar with the foldable, billboard, and launchpad, those have carried over into the new ArcGIS Experience Builder Express Mode. Once you've selected a template, it gives you a nice streamlined workflow as well to help complete your experience and add in those great Experience Builder widgets. Those are going to be accessed from the top toolbar as opposed to the left-hand side in the Express mode, but you can select between different themes, and you still do get the capability of previewing that application in either a desktop or a mobile mode. So still lots of good flexibility in this Express mode, but some important things to note for our users as well. So you'll know if you're in Express mode if the secondary colors in the application are purple, whereas we know in the full mode of Express Builder, that default color is going to be teal. So right away, a quick visual way to tell if you're in the full mode versus the Express mode. And there's an easy way to toggle back and forth between the modes in the top of the application as well. There's going to be a nice little toggle in the header. And of course, if you start in Express mode, building your app, and maybe you want to jump out into the full mode and take things a little bit further to the full capabilities of Express or Experience Builder, you can certainly do that. So you can take your Express mode and convert that over. But it will let you know that this is a one-way conversion. So you can't go back to editing in Express mode once you've merged over to the full version. But of course, it's going to let you know, it'll give you a nice little message. And as a bit of a safety net, there's nothing wrong. You can always make a copy of your Express mode app and then go ahead and convert over and see what the full version of ArcGIS Experience Builder is. But great to see this capability coming and helping to bridge the gap for those coming from our ArcGIS web app builder.
Absolutely. I think it's pretty clear to a lot of people who have never tried it before that Experience Builder is a little more complex than our other app builders. It can be a little intimidating. So I think this is a huge step forward for anybody, like you said, transitioning, especially from Web App Builder, to get themselves started up in this new system. And it's a really exciting ad for ArcGIS Online.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Brandon. It's always great to hear from you, and I can't wait to see what you bring us in the new year.
Oh, well, thanks again, Maggie and Mark. Great to be back, and can't wait to speak with you again soon.
That was Brandon Wheatley. He's a technical solutions specialist with the marketing team at Esri Canada, and he's calling us in today from Santa's Workshop in Midtown Toronto.
And when we come back, let's wrap things up and share a little news. We'll do that next. All right, Maggie, Samson, that was a power-packed episode of our Spatial Report podcast. Lots of things that we learned today.
Absolutely. I always love these end-of-year podcasts. We get to hear so much from everybody.
Absolutely. And, as much as we're having a lot of good vibes, there is one sort of sad vibe that we want to share. So, Maggie, you got some news for us.
Yes, it is really sad news, but coming into the next year, I will no longer be co-hosting the Spatial Report podcast with you, Mark. I'm moving on to a different position here at Esri Canada as our ArcGIS Online product specialist. So taking a little bit less time for doing these episodes, but a lot of exciting things in ArcGIS Online that I'm looking forward to learning and sharing with everybody as it comes out in the next few years.
Absolutely, yes. And even though it is going to be very sad not to have Maggie as our permanent co-host here on the podcast, she's going to pop in a lot because ArcGIS Online, there's so much going on, as you heard from earlier. We're going to have Maggie back all the time to tell us about all the new things that's going on in online.
Absolutely. I want every opportunity I can to be on the show. I love working with you, Mark. It's always a lot of fun. So I look forward to being invited back whenever possible.
You got it. But I do have to ask one huge favor because, as you may know, in this spot, we usually do our game show, and the punishment for losing the game is you had to read the outro. And in the 20 games that we've done, you've only had to read the outro 4 times, which is just absolutely humiliating.
You were going easy on me, I know, but it's okay. I'm not a great reader, so it worked out for everyone.
I like how you know I was easy on you, but you were still hard on me. So I really appreciate that.
I choose what I'm going to do. You could have adjusted. You had lots of chances.
Fine. So as a favor from me to you, or for you to me, I don't know how that works. I'm going to ask you to read the outro one final time. So Maggie, the floor is yours.
Sounds good. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Spatial Report. Please check out our website at esri.ca/spatial report to learn more about the topics we covered today. We also post videos of our interview segments on the Esri Canada YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe to our monthly Getting Technical newsletter that highlights all the latest news in our technology. This podcast is brought to you by Esri Canada, a technology company that empowers people and organizations by the science of where. Mark will be back next month, and until then, happy mapping.